You'd think that being a homeowner in a quiet suburban neighborhood would be a dream come true, right? The house is perfect, the lawn is always green, and everything seems peaceful. But what happens when the neighborhood's HOA decides you owe them money for dues that you never agreed to? Yeah, it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what happened to me. And in the end, it led to something even more unexpected. The judge ordered the HOA to be dissolved. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening. Your support means everything. It all started about 2 years ago when I moved into my new home. After months of searching, I found the perfect spot, a cozy 3-bedroom house in a quiet cul-de-sac. The neighbors seemed friendly enough, and the area was well kept. The first time I heard about the Homeowners Association, or HOA, was when my next-door neighbor, Tom, casually mentioned it while we were chatting about the weather. By the way, Tom said, "I hope you got that HOA paperwork in the mail. You don't want to be behind on your dues." Dues? I had no idea what he was talking about. "I didn't get anything about dues," I said, feeling a little confused. Tom just shrugged. "Oh, they'll send it soon. They're pretty strict around here, but it's not too bad. Just pay up when it comes." I didn't think much of it at the time. I was busy in packing and getting settled into my new life. But then, a month later, I received a letter that had HOA in big, bold letters across the top. I was already starting to feel a little uneasy. The letter was short and to the point. It said that my dues were overdue $350 and that if I didn't pay it within 30 days, I'd face a fine and potential legal action. My stomach dropped. I had never agreed to be part of an HOA. I hadn't signed anything. As far as I was concerned, I was just a regular homeowner with a regular house. Naturally, I called the HOA's contact number. It took a few tries, but eventually, I got through to someone named Linda, who was, let's just say, less than helpful. "Hi, I'm calling about the dues I've been charged. I don't remember ever signing up for any HOA," I said, trying to sound as polite as possible. "Oh, sir, I'm afraid the HOA is mandatory in this neighborhood. All homeowners have to pay. The paperwork must have been lost in the mail," Linda said, her voice flat and dismissive. "Well, I never received anything about it," I replied, feeling my frustration growing. "Can you show me proof that I'm even part of the HOA?" There was a long pause on the other end. Finally, she said, "You should have received the welcome packet. That's your proof. It's part of the neighborhood agreement." I had no idea what she was talking about, but I was determined to get this sorted out. Over the next few days, I combed through all the paperwork I received when I bought the house. There was nothing, no mention of an HOA, no welcome packet, nothing that stated I was even a part of the association. I called the HOA again, this time asking to speak with someone higher up, but Linda was back on the phone, refusing to let me escalate the issue. It was a never-ending loop of them insisting I owed the dues, and me insisting that I never agreed to anything. Then came the official notice. They were suing me for unpaid dues. I was shocked. How could this even be happening? I wasn't even part of the HOA. It felt like an absurd joke, but it was happening. The next thing I knew, I had a legal summons in my hand. I knew I had to take this seriously, so I hired a lawyer, Jason, who specialized in real estate disputes. He was confident, but also clearly bewildered by the situation. "I've never heard of an HOA doing this without any paperwork," he told me, shaking his head. "But don't worry, we'll fight this." The court date arrived faster than I expected. My stomach was in knots as I walked into the courthouse with Jason. I had no idea what to expect, but I certainly didn't think it would come to this. When the HOA's lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Deborah, walked in, she flashed me a smug smile. "This will be a quick case," she said, taking a seat across from us. I sat quietly, trying not to show my nerves. The judge walked in, and the proceedings began. Deborah presented her argument first. "Your Honor, my client, the HOA, has made several attempts to collect the outstanding dues from this homeowner. Despite these efforts, the dues have gone unpaid. The HOA provides essential services to this neighborhood, such as landscaping and community upkeep, and the defendant is responsible for contributing. I raised my hand. The judge, a middle-aged man with a stern face, nodded for me to speak. Your Honor, I've never received any notice or paperwork about the HOA, I said, my voice steady but firm. I didn't sign anything agreeing to be part of this association. I never authorized any dues. Deborah scoffed. That's not what the records say, Your Honor. The defendant's address is listed in our official HOA register. I don't care what's listed in the register. I never agreed to it. I have no contract, no signature, nothing, I said, turning to the judge. If you're going to make me pay this, there has to be a contract. It's that simple. Jason stood up and added, We've done extensive research. Your Honor, there's no evidence that my client is part of this HOA. No contract was signed, and no notice was received. The judge looked back and forth between us and then at the paperwork Deborah had presented. This is an unusual case, he muttered to himself. I'll take a moment to review the details. It felt like an eternity. My heart raced. This wasn't just about a few $100. This was about standing up for my rights as a homeowner, and I was prepared to fight. After what felt like hours, the judge returned to the bench. He adjusted his glasses and looked at both parties. I've reviewed the evidence, he said, and I find that the HOA's actions in this case were not just aggressive, but fundamentally flawed. There is no signed agreement, and the defendant did not consent to these dues. This is an unlawful claim. Deborah's jaw dropped. Your Honor, furthermore, the judge continued, the HOA's lack of transparency and failure to provide clear documentation means that they violated basic legal principles of contract law. In light of this, I'm ordering that this HOA be dissolved. I couldn't believe my ears. The HOA dissolved. It felt surreal. The judge's gavel slammed down, and I heard the words I never thought I'd hear. The HOA is hereby dissolved. Case dismissed. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I had won against an organization that had tried to intimidate me into paying for something I had never agreed to. But it wasn't just about the victory. It was about the principle of the matter. The HOA was forced to disband, and all the homeowners were no longer bound by any dues or regulations. The neighborhood was free from their control, and I didn't have to worry about the looming threat of fines or legal action anymore. In the end, I learned a valuable lesson: never back down when you know you're right. And if something doesn't feel right, if you don't remember signing anything or agreeing to anything, trust your instincts. The law is on your side. It was a strange experience, but I was relieved. My home was truly mine now. No hidden fees, no shady organizations trying to take advantage of me. And every time I drive through my quiet little neighborhood, I can't help but smile. Because sometimes, the best thing that can happen is for an HOA to be dissolved and for justice to be served.